Hello and welcome to the Longbox, month in comics, episode 2, isn't it?
Yeah, episode 2.
Yeah.
Didn't lose count.
No, yeah, very true. So how do you think last episode went?
Happy with the last one.
Yeah.
A few things I think we should address.
Yeah, cool. I think I should get my Snyders and my Schneiders correct.
Yeah, and Bucky wasn't Captain America at the start of that comic we talked about.
No.
We're not going to do too much of this, but we want to try and get ahead of the criticism.
Yeah, that's absolutely fun.
We don't do too much prep, we don't want it to sound scripted, and so things are going to be wrong. Also, we decided to keep the name The Longbox, which we actually dismissed.
Yeah, we were like, fuck that, and then I rang, then I got cold feet. I was like, no, it's got to be The Longbox.
No, we like a snappier name.
Yeah.
So welcome to The Longbox, a month in comics. Sometime.
Right, cool. As we've got an agenda, should we jump straight into it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I'll start off first of all, as promised. This month was Future's End month. It was very exciting going to Forbidden Planet and seeing all those little sexy lenticular covers.
Yeah, lots of cool 3D changing.
Yeah, they were 3D as well as changing colours. I mean, I take it you picked up Aquaman on an impulse.
I did, yeah. I picked up the Aquaman one on impulse, as I mentioned last month. I normally just pick up Aquaman in the trade paperbacks, but it was a really cool cover, and I thought it would look good in the collection. Actually turned out to be a bit of a blessing, because the Aquaman and the Others Future's End, which I didn't realise was coming out, is a sequel to this one, so it's good that I picked it. So
it's like a 1-2.
It's a 1-2, yeah.
Oh, cool. That's, I was a good boy, but I was tempted by the Green Arrow cover, which was
cool. That was
the
Tombstone.
Yeah, Tombstone. Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
It was really, really good. So, but yeah, I was like, no.
Lots of fantastic covers. Yeah, and I don't enough can't be said about how amazing it is to walk into a comic book shop and just see those everywhere. It's nice when DC do an event.
It was. I think this feels like this is going to be something that continues each year. I mean, this is to celebrate the 3rd anniversary of the New 52. The first anniversary, I believe they did. Everyone went back to the well and did issue 0. So they told an origin story of sorts for all of their books.
Second anniversary was Villains.
Villains, yeah, and that was an awesome time as well. The 3D covers. Really nice. You could buy them 2D if you didn't like the 3D covers, but who did?
Who did? Yeah.
So we had each villain got their own book for a month. It was quite awesome. And so this time, I don't know what they'll do next year, but I imagine there'll be another collectibles delight when it comes to it.
Yeah, it's good to have stuff to hunt down as well. When you're picking stuff up on a regular basis, you tend not to have those chase down books.
Well, I mean, last year we went to a con pretty much the month after Villains, and it was just like books that we picked up for £3 was like 15 quid for this book.
So the Joker one was the ticket item.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay. So I don't know if that's still hot property. I don't know if we try to hunt down a Joker book if we're still paying that type of price. But
I don't think they're going to be cashing in and retiring.
No, well, yeah. But I don't know if it then drops to nothing. Like, I don't know if it's the hype. I mean, we'll go to a con soon. We'll see how much these lenticular covers go for there.
Yeah.
But the thing about Future's End is it wasn't just flashy covers. It was there was some purpose to it. The whole idea is the whole new the books that they're running. I believe they're on, although it's called the New 52. I believe they publish about 41 books. That's not including things like Eternal or Superman Unchained, but the stuff in their kind of normal run, they had 41 books that they did a Future's End for, and the idea is it's set in 5 years into the future from
the DCU. Same. So books like Batman, which have been jumping around a little bit in time, it's 5 years on from as near to the exact
present.
Yeah. So it's the same. In theory, this is happening on or around the same time for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much from what you've...
apart from the PS that I will do that is apart from... Sorry to confuse you folks, but apart from Action Comics, which is set 5 years in the past at all times. So their Future's End would probably catch you up to where the Superman run is at the moment. So that's based around where Jeff Johns' Superman is at the moment.
That makes sense.
So if you kind of understand, everything jumped, and because that one was 5 years behind anyway, it jumped to the present.
Okay, so from what you said, you only picked up the Batman Future's End.
Yeah.
From what you've heard, are the Future's Ends crossing over? Is it one big worldwide event, or is it just 5 years on from their storyline? There's no actual world event.
No, they are in the same way the DCU always is. They are somewhat linked, but no, they had their own kind of independent story. There was no one was doing something to help someone else's story. It wasn't It wasn't like that. So but there was some cool stuff going on there. Like I heard that Clark Kent's missing in 5 years' time. No one knows where Clark Kent is, but we do have a Superman wearing he's got a mask. He's got like a metal helmet, which is cool. So it's like, oh, who's this potential?
We also got a Superman in the Batman 5 years on. Well, Was that? I have to go back and look again. Was it actually Bizarro, or was it a bad?
My understanding, it was just a bad clone. We will get there in a minute with the Batman one, but the cool thing about the Superman in the mask, it actually turns out, which I absolutely love, to be Billy Batson. It's
brilliant.
So we got our Captain Marvel who just wants to go flights and tights, and he's protecting Metropolis as Superman, which I thought was a really good idea.
That's cool.
Another one that I really liked is Barbara Gordon has she's got an entire league of Batgirls in her story. So cool. She's like running the show, and what was really nice for it is they had as her three kind of Batgirl minions. They had Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, who were Batgirl in the modern era of Batman before they reset the New 52. They were established Batgirls at one point or another. So it was nice when the New 52 came. They kind of retconned the idea of them ever being Batgirl. So now they brought them back as a version of Batgirl.
That's cool.
The other one that they had as well, which is interesting. The third member of her team was what's her name? Tiffany Fox, which is Lucius's little daughter. So cool. in modern times, she's about 7 years old, but she's about 12 in this story. So they've got her being like a young,
like a Robin character to the Batgirl.
Yeah,
to Batgirl as Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought it was a nice little.
It's a good parallel.
Yeah, really. I thought that was quite a nice idea to do with that. And Batman, he has his back broken. That's what they got going on with there.
Yeah, I missed that on the first run through. I just thought he was. Should we jump into the content a little bit rather than
of course. Rather than scoot around it. Yeah, so essentially the idea of Batman's Future's End is in 5 years' time he's got a broken back. He's on his last legs. He don't look like he's going to survive much longer, and he wants to clone himself. That's his idea to continue on his legacy. Bruce Wayne wants another Bruce Wayne to take over, much to Alfred's dismay, because he's just like, not for nothing, but the Bat family you've created can like take care. Like Grayson is your son. He can continue.
Batman says Gotham needs a Batman.
Yeah.
Who are we to disagree?
No, yeah, I mean. Bruce knows far more about Gotham than I do, if that's it.
You asked me before we started recording, I wonder, how did Batman's back get broken? There's only one way Batman's back ever gets broken.
Yeah.
But it's a question of whether they'll tell that story.
Yeah, that is true. I know in the villain, going back to the villain month, I know the Bane one kind of touched upon them doing a miniature version of Nightfall, but it never came to the conclusion, I believe it. It may have been continued in Forever Evil, but they did the story of like him getting to Gotham, and you're like, oh, shit's going down. But I think they then continued that on with Forever Evil. But yeah, I'm going to make the assumption. Feel free if anyone's out there knows the answer to this, and give us shit on Facebook or something. Whether I'm assuming it was Bane that broke his back.
Yeah, Batman's back is broken. You have to make the assumption it was Bane. But yeah,
I mean, by the by, it's not even on the story. It doesn't matter whether it is Bane or not. He has a broken back, is where we're at, and he's off to make a claim. Essentially, that's what Batman's motive is, and he looks like he's had a few failed attempts in the Batcave. He needs an item, and he needs it from LexCorp.
Yeah.
So he suits up.
It's Infiltrator Batman. It was interesting to see him on a kind of a personal mission.
Yeah.
As opposed to
prowling the streets.
Prowling the streets out to avenge something, and he had it all worked out.
Yes,
of course,
as Batman would.
Yeah.
I love the suit they put. So obviously, yes, he's got a suit that holds him together. He's got a broken back, and there's some mesh that does, all this.
It felt a little bit Iron Man in that it was keeping him alive.
Yes, and it was very much like bolted onto him. It was like a machine that put it on. But did it not look like the Dark Knight trilogy Batman? That's what I loved.
Absolutely,
I was really happy with that.
Sleek.
The motorcycle.
Yeah, looking at a helmet and obviously gadgets up the wazoo, which potentially wasn't in the film, but it had that more technological edge as opposed to just being a costume.
Yeah, and it's only 5 years into the future, but this costume can do some pretty cool shit when it comes to.
Yeah, let's not go through the play-by-play of everything that happens, but vibrating through solid matter is something normally reserved for the Flash.
One thing I will say, like you said, you didn't want to do the play-by-play, but there is an awesome bit. He gets into LexCorp and he's trying to, he's got to get through Lex's security, and as the head of this security is the Lex Luthor AI, and it's absolutely brilliant.
It gives us a Lex Luthor like kind of an old school evil Riddler or Joker monologue, kind of like it's normally they'd be watching on a monitor and berating him, but this is just the recorded security message.
I love the kind of the way it kind of
smug.
Yes, it's a smug Luther, and I love the way it kind of like second guesses what's happening. So he gets through like the third layer of security, and I think he says something along the lines of like, you know, this is fascinating. If you're hearing this message, you know, you've managed to bypass my control panel. Assuming it's like Luther, he's like, "Are you me?" It's quite possible. Even like he's the only person that would be able to get that far into it.
So their head games. And...
Yeah. And then he essentially what happens is he breaks into LexCorp to find this thing for cloning. He finds the cloning area and realizes that Lex Luthor, the insane maniac that he is cloning loads and loads of Supermen. And that's essentially where our kind of action comes, that he has to, Batman's horrified by this, so he has to destroy all these evil clones. And that's what you're saying. Is it Bizarro or...?
Well, this is why I've just flipped to the page. Take a look at that S. This isn't going to be totally engaging on the podcast.
Yeah, it is.
But that is a backwards S.
Yes, it is Bizarro.
It's Bizarro. He's either working for Lex or he is a clone of Bizarro. But he's wearing the costume.
Yeah.
Like there's another Superman clone in a pod, sort of half put together. Luthor's cloning him for his own for his own agenda. We don't get much detail on that. But yeah, one of the security protocols, I guess, is either a clone of Bizarro or Bizarro.
Yeah. For the story purposes, I just thought it was just another
clone in progress that he used as a security thing.
That's my favourite thing though. So Batman's like, fuck, I've got to destroy these fuckers. So he sets out a bunch of bombs, and the Lex AI realises, and he's just like, oh, what's that? Yeah, I've written the quote down here actually somewhere. It's like, resourceful, brilliant, and tragically misguided. I'm going to guess you're Batman. Am I right? Like,
I did have a chuckle over that because it occurred to me at some point Lex took the afternoon off to record his AI, and went, at some point, what if someone got past this? Only Batman could do it. So he recorded him a special one. Just for Batman.
I love that. I was just like, and we're getting closer and closer to another incarnation of Luthor in a film, and I see things like this, and I cannot wait for any of these elements to be used. It's like absolutely brilliant.
Jesse Eisenberg recording himself a little hologram.
Yeah, well, just speaking in that manner, and I mean, a lot of people were against the Eisenberg casting, but I just like
those people didn't watch The Social Network.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I watched this in a world where because. One way of looking at Luthor is he is physically intimidating, and he is a man, but he is big, and obviously he can't fight Superman, but he looks physically intimidating. Now, in a world where we've got Ben Affleck doing that and Henry Cavill, we can't have a third man just like rocking around. Like, I know the chicks might like it, but
three bodybuilders.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like the idea of let's just cast Eisenberg and just have
have him be a brain.
Yeah, just have Mark Zuckerberg basically.
A scrawny Lex Luthor works. We've seen it in comics before.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that Eisenberg is going to be more than adequate. I think he might actually do something different with the character that people go, okay.
Yeah. So going to give him a bit of history. I mean, we had a pretty cool Smallville Lex.
Yeah.
With some,
Again, he was physically, adequate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's weird with Future's End. I absolutely was thumbs up about it. I mean, the things if you set Batman 5 years into the future, if I say think about that story, you're not going to come up with this story.
No,
so you might be instantly disappointed. But I think it's no one there's two ways you do it. You either do it there, Gotham's worse than ever, and you think, well, that doesn't make sense because
we didn't see Gotham.
No, that's true.
Yeah, he was in presumably Metropolis.
Yeah, that is true.
What we did see of Gotham was just some brief glimpses on the monitors while Alfred's talking about, look at this fucking team you've put together, look at these guys going out kicking ass, saving the world on your behalf, do you really need a clone? Having that conversation. On the monitor we've got Red Hood and obviously Batgirl, all that. We also got Harper, Bluebird. In our flash forward in Eternal, which we got months back. We see the character in the Eternal run, Harper, is going to become a hero. And we see her
as
a it's nice that when they took Gotham 5 years forward. Even if they didn't show us much of it, it's nice that there was a nod to
it. Is there, yeah. And the other one was a Talon as well, wasn't it?
Talon, yeah. There was a lady Talon as well. I don't know whether it was a hero, whether that was a hint that they're going in that direction.
I know there was a Talon run at one point. I picked up issue 0 of Talon in one of the chase books. I was just, I'll pick that up. And that was interesting. It's not one of the Talons we've seen in the Court of Owls storyline. It looks like a new recruit who goes rogue, which is quite an interesting story. But I don't know how that ties into what they were trying to nod at that. But yeah, no, it was really... And the issue ends with Batman getting what he wants and starting his clone. Now, this is the thing that I was always like, ooh... Because because it's become canon now, do you think that this is the start of the Terry McGinnis storyline? Is this clone going to be Terry McGinnis?
I think canon is too kind a word. They put it in a comic book run. They also put Batman 66 in a comic book run. That doesn't make it canon.
By the name alone, I believe this is canon, because the run that is McGinnis heavy is called Future's End. Now the storyline of Future's End is this. That is said, initially 30 years in the future from the present, and Terry McGinnis goes back in time 10 years from that. So it's 20 years into the future. So there is a canon run where it is established now that Terry McGinnis is part of the DCU.
Okay, and is Terry McGinnis established as a clone of Bruce Wayne in that?
Again, this is like the whole New 52 thing of like, let's not talk about the past. Everything that could have happened, did happen, could have happened, but we're not going to tell you which bits. And I believe, I might be wrong about that, but I believe that they haven't really gone into McGinnis' origins.
Okay, fair enough.
The great thing is we don't have to sit around here and ponder for long, because I don't know if you're aware, but this isn't. Although these Future's End books that came out this month are primarily one-shots, our Batman run is going to stay in the future, so we are going to get our answers on this one.
Because it does say one-shot.
Yes, I believe that issue 35 will continue on this story.
Right. Okay.
Now, I believe the reason is because it's going to get too messy with Eternal if we have. Snyder finishing off the Eternal story until the end of the year, as well as having the main Batman story set in modern day Gotham. I just think like I complained last episode about, like, how the fuck can he be doing one big mission and another big mission? It just doesn't really.
And whatever's happening in Detective Comics.
Yeah, exactly.
And do we have a Batman and Robin run at the moment? Because I think Robin Rises, the story of Dick Grayson, how he got back.
The last time I dipped into the Batman and Robin run was probably issue 32. So what we talking when the bombshells came out. So what's that, at the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
Now, what they were doing with Batman and Robin then was because Robin's dead, it was Batman and ...
Yeah.
So it was like Batman and Two-Face, Batman and Ra's al Ghul. So the one that I read was the Batman and Ra's al Ghul one, and he was off in the desert. So he was away from Gotham doing some shit with Talia.
Right. Okay.
So that's how they avoid that, but I don't know if that runs continue. I haven't got my fingers on the pot.
I mean, it's always been the case that there's way too many titles for Batman for him to actually be doing it all. But with things like Eternal and Future's End, where they're doing really big kind of almost like world-altering stuff, like stuff that has to remain canon, I guess they do need to space them apart in terms of their
I think it's a smart move
timelines.
to just be like, and I am intrigued enough to sit there and read a Future's End storyline. I think it's quite clever. See where our wing's going. I just feel like I'm backtracking on everything I said. Like, I bitched a lot last episode. Now I'm like, I want Capullo back though. I must say the artwork was at times, it was great for the gritty future, but there was some action stuff in set in LexCorp. I just couldn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, no, it was difficult. It filled the room with liquid helium, which I suppose I wouldn't know how to draw that, I guess.
No,
but it turns out you draw it messy.
Yeah. A smudge.
Yeah.
So I hope that the team of Snyder and Capullo are back next week. I'd like to see that happen. Which there's no reason why it hasn't. I haven't heard any news that either of them have left the book. So
no.
I assume that's going to be.
No, they're still the dream team, aren't they? For the Batman run. Although Snyder's doing way too much, presumably at some point he's going to move on to other books.
I am surprised that out of the things that Snyder's doing, I'm surprised that this isn't the one that's been dropped, even though it's Batman and it is your number one book and it's your bestseller. The fact that he's doing Eternal, I imagine that the Unchained stuff was in the was written a year ago. And it's just trying to get Lee to draw it.
Right, yeah.
I think that's what the hold-up's on. So it looks like he's got a full roster, but it probably isn't as bad. And like you were saying last time, Eternal isn't solely Snyder, is it? He's just overseeing the story.
I think that's
masterminding it.
credited with the story.
Yeah.
So he's presumably mapped it all out. He may have mapped it out well in advance.
Yeah.
So it might not be tied up in this.
So you might have time to move. But again, as much as I didn't like the last issue, I love this issue.
This was fantastic. It felt like a complete departure from the Batman of Zero Year, which is fine. This is like more than 5 years on from Zero Year. It's 10 years on from Zero Year.
I mean, do the maths like the present is 7 years away from 0 year plus these 5.
There we go.
So yeah, it would be a complete. We have got this Batman's grown up a lot since the end of 0 year. Which, and you can tell.
So yeah, a massive thumbs up. A great one shot as well. I mean,
That's actually great. Yeah.
If you're not reading Batman or if you're not reading comics, it's still worth picking up. It is a great one-off.
Sexy
Batman
cover.
story.
It's a complete one-off Batman story. It's really cool. Yeah, essentially pick it up. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, what else? What's next?
I'm going to jump over, like the same as we did last issue.
Move over to Marvel.
Over to Guardians of the Galaxy over at Marvel. You read the book?
I did. I was. Evidently, I read it in somehow with my mind before it was released.
I think
because my review, my in anticipation review of it last month was pretty spot on.
There was a Dan Simpson feature end clearly that you read and realised because exactly what you like stick with the book. Everything you hated about that issue, you're gonna. Going to. I mean, where to start? It's absolutely let's start with the cover alone. It's got Thanos on the front, looking badass, with Nova right next to him. It's like, okay, shit's going on in this book before I've even opened it. I was going to say, you were talking about going digital with these books.
This is probably the one least like that has been in the Marvel run. It felt really. I mean, probably everything was probably drawn on computers. I acknowledge that's probably the case, but some of them look more shiny, more two-dimensional, and that's why I was leaning towards going digital with it. But this one had me wonder.
No, because I'm the other way around. Because I'm just like, a white screen would be great because you ejaculate over this artwork. Like, it's absolutely stunning. And then the guy is Ed McGuinness. He hasn't drawn any of the previous Guardians, and it looks amazing.
It's the best Thanos I've seen in comics for a while.
Ever, I think. Like, it is. He's a tank in that. He looks absolutely amazing.
There's a brilliant moment. Again, we won't run into danger of just reviewing the entire story piece by piece before we go through it. But he gets blown up in some way, and his headpiece and all his armor and gear and you realise he's just a big hench purple alien.
Yeah, that isn't armor. That is it is armor, but it's not.
It's skin tight. It's like spray painted on or something.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
but it's brilliant. It was weird to see him without the helmet because you got this image of Thanos as effectively a jaw sticking out of a helmet, and just brilliant to see him looking built.
The same.
He looked kind of similar to Drax in that comic almost, like a purple Hulk.
Now there wasn't really much. Like the story wasn't. It wasn't Catcher in the Rye of fucking comic books, was it?
No, it was Nova and Peter Quill fighting Thanos.
Essentially, it starts with. It's a little bit more than that. Gamora is interrogating Quill.
Yeah, I forgot about the intro.
Like what the fuck just happened, and then the rest is Quill telling the story of how. Nova and himself, Star-Lord, was trying to keep Thanos in the Nightmare universe, I believe.
The Cancerverse?
The Cancerverse?
Yeah, that was what we were calling it. I gotta say, by the end of this comic, I wanted to tie Peter Quill to a chair and slap him and ask him what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Because I don't know whether the other Guardians run that's carrying on, something else happened. His costume's changed. I know that's not a big deal, but it kind of implies all the universe to me.
Yeah.
They're talking about stuff that's happened that I had no idea was going on in the Guardians run. I must have missed something in the wider universe. We're talking in this book about Drax being dead and brought back to life.
Yeah, through
the Cancerverse.
Yeah.
So this is Quill telling the story of what happened in there. This is we don't know how long ago this happened. So if Drax died before the start of the Guardians run,
which we know because this is issue 18. We read it 17. We talked about it last episode, and nothing of the kind happened.
No.
So I don't know if this has happened in another book, or like you said, the other Marvel Now run that's happening alongside, maybe picking
possibly,
up the story.
Yeah.
I didn't mind too much though. It was just like, okay, cool. To be fair, like I said, it isn't great storytelling. I'm just excited just because of the artwork, and it is about 16 pages of Thanos and Star-Lord just throwing down. It's fucking brilliant. Like,
and Star-Lord's fighting him off with the Tesseract.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Again. No idea why or how,
where
or why
did
it's not in the Infinity Gauntlet. But
I don't care. It's like I walked into
was awesome.
halfway through a movie and I don't like it. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Going back to what you were saying about Star-Lord and the costumes, my understanding is he's a little bit like Batman. He was just like, which bat symbol am I wearing today? I just see him as having a load of helmets. And just like,
okay, yeah. But overall, a really strong issue of this round, with in terms of as a Guardians of the Galaxy story, not so much. Not in that it wasn't as engaging or entertaining, but it was the story of Nova and Peter Quill fighting Thanos. So one of the things I love about Guardians is the fucking raccoon.
I was going to say Dan's scatting around it. What he means is there was no rocket in this issue. So.
But no, there was no group team stuff, the Firefly stuff which we mentioned before. It was a really cool issue of a comic about Thanos.
What have you been reading? Because we've just gone through my list.
Right, as usual, the only thing I'm reading that you're not is Aquaman related. No, also Punisher.
Yeah, you've done some Punisher stuff as well.
Right, so I'll briefly go through Punisher because it was a great issue, but not a lot to write home about.
Right.
Again, that crossover with Black Widow. If it comes up again, it'll surprise me. It's gone.
It's redundant, was it?
It ended. I'm pretty sure that issue ended with Black Widow with a gun to the Punisher's head. This one, he's in a prison in like some Guantanamo Bay looking place. Completely unrelated. He's gotten himself incarcerated to take down some bad guys. In the meantime, the brother of the bad guy he took out in the first little run where he's fighting gangsters has shown up and is going to start fucking up LA while Punisher's in prison. They don't know where he is, but they know he's away at the moment.
Do you think Marvel just have this thing of like non-committal to stories? It's like, this ain't working, let's move on to the next thing.
I wonder if there is, like, you know the old make your own adventure books?
Yeah.
Where you, like, there's one path through, like if you pick the right comics from the right runs, you'll get a cohesive story. Feels like that might be the case. But if you're just trying to follow one run from one hero, you're going to get lost and it's going to get taken
you
places.
think more than anything this is like, if you wanted that conclusion, you should have picked up Captain America fucking Marvel Now episode issue 8. Like,
it might be that.
That's fine if that's how they want to do it. I know you're going to get sales out of people doing it that way. Can we have a map? Can someone tell me these things?
Can someone with way too much free time and an internet connection please make us a map? I think that would be just as well.
Yeah, I mean, if that is the case, because I remember that happening back in the day when I was a wee nipper reading my Marvel comics. You know, the Spider-Man comic will continue in Fantastic Four. Thing is, it told me that. I got a little box at the end of my story telling me to pick up that issue.
Yeah.
Right. So Punisher, was it cool?
It was cool. It kind of, the plot is not interesting enough to go into. It feels like a filler until they get into. I never know what they're waiting for in Marvel. When they throw in a filler, it's like, what are you waiting for? It's no actors scheduled to sort of work.
Yeah.
But they're definitely waiting for something, and it's going to get into
another event, probably.
Maybe. It probably doesn't cross over with Original Sin. That'd be weird.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, they're definitely waiting for something, and this is just a cool little one-off story. It also serves as a reason for him to not be on the streets, and so crime's getting bad. The lady cop he had a relationship with is kind of getting into trouble, and having to take the law into her own hands a bit. Maybe
it's not just him like bouncing a tennis ball against them.
No, he's working something.
Okay.
We've got that kind of Batman soliloquy running throughout. He's up to something, but he's never telling you everything.
Okay.
And if the stuff that's in prison, which is probably sort of 3/4 of the book, it feels like why Rorschach is in prison in
Watchmen.
In Watchmen, the kind of you're locked in here with me. It's got that feel about it. It's really cool, and he's working. There's some old prisoner that he wants to have a conversation with, and the comic finishes before he gets to have that conversation.
Right, okay.
He like orchestrates a riot and then gets him on his own. It's the Punisher, probably going to rip his head off.
Yeah.
But whatever. And it does give us some time to set up that the Punisher is making a huge difference in LA. There's loads of like little cutaway to news, the way they love to cheat in comics. Saying that crime's on the rise. Some people think it's because the Punisher made people dangerous. Some people think it's because he's not there to clean up the mess. And the brother of the bad guy from the first run, I can't remember their names, has shown up, and he's like, we're going to finish what my brother started. Okay. So they're establishing some stuff. There's a lot of things being set up in this one. Time to knock the dominoes over, though. I think it's been setting stuff up for a while.
So ready for the payoff then.
Yeah.
Okay.
The The last time the payoff was Electro, so if it could not be Electro.
Okay, anything but Electro.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have to say on Punisher. Next was Aquaman. Again, this is not something I'm picking up regularly. I'm normally just picking up Aquaman in the trade paperbacks. But because the Aquaman Future's End is a two-parter, starting here and ending in Aquaman and the others, means I can talk about it next month because I'll have picked it up by then.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was considering doing them as one book, but I just really enjoyed this one, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
I'd take it first and foremost you picked it up because the cover was awesome.
I picked it up because the cover is awesome. It's probably not the most awesome of the covers, but it's got Mera with Aquaman's trident sat on his throne and him looking subjugated, and it had him in a new costume that makes him look like Kick-Ass.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was definitely
with just the shoulders of his normal scale.
Yeah,
and so I wanted to see if there was any story behind that, because it was such a different take on his costume rather than just the usual sort of gold on top.
I really don't mind it.
I don't mind it either. You know, it annoyed me that they changed it, but then I thought, don't be a purist.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right, yeah, no, they don't talk about the costume in the comics because that would be boring, and this is why I don't write comics. What it is the problem is I'm not picking up the Aquaman runs. I'm actually behind on it. So this is 5 years on from something I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
Maybe it's nothing to do with the story, nothing we've seen yet. Don't know, so I'm just going to go in cold. There's been a war, not sure who with, but Mera's people, who begin with X. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce it, and I won't get it wrong on the internet.
It's because you can't speak fish. So that's
I don't speak fish. Yeah. Right. Right, there's been a war, and Mera's people are refugees to Atlantis, a broken Atlantis. And whatever this war was as well has damaged the ocean, and there's the fish have all fucked off. And so the Atlanteans and Mera's people are having a really bad time of it. Aquaman's solution, he's still king of Atlantis at this point, is to build an Atlantis island above ground.
Right, so you're not living underwater.
So they're not just that, but it's so that they have it's a bit socio-political. It's so that they have a presence and a stake within the air breathers world.
Yeah.
And so that they can potentially get aid and make deals. Atlanteans inherently quite racist.
Yeah.
And so they're kicking off about it. The guy who I should have written down some names. One of his chief advisors who pops up in the Aquaman run is now working on the sly for Mera.
Right, okay.
To get a as yet undiscovered Atlantean gold item. If you remember last month I was talking about his artifact. Yeah. He now has the Shield of Eternity or something like that. He's managed to track down this artifact, which can be used to resurrect the dead king.
Okay.
Who is the king who sunk Atlantis and made the Atlantean items. As far as I remember. Now, there's reference made to a big fight that Aquaman has already had with him. I don't know whether that's happening in the run I've not yet picked up, or whether that's just a kind of something that can happen in the next 5 years before we catch up to this.
I'm trying to remember. I remember a few months ago I did dip into Aquaman. It was just lying around, so I picked up. That was about 3 months ago, and that was nothing to do with the storyline. That was an underwater lab created this ultimate creature that then Aquaman had to fight, and that's where that story was going. Not Jeff Johns, because he gave up the run, I think, after the 3rd volume, so what we're talking issue 15. But yeah, it seems like this refugee story is within the 5 years of missing.
Right, okay. I don't know whether the fight with the dead king is in the missing 5 years.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that he's hooked up with I want to say Yawara, I think is how you would pronounce her name.
Okay.
One of the others.
And
he's not now with Mera.
Oh.
So that's hell hath no fury and all that.
Yeah, the friction.
And she's like a jungle queen as well, so could not get any more of a land breather.
Okay, because that's so that explains the cover then, because the lenticular cool cover is Aquaman bowing to Mera. Mera's on the throne, and then when you do the twist, he isn't bowing at all. He's chained. Yeah.
That was what I liked about the cover. Is
you were like, oh, okay, he's loving his woman. Yeah, okay, respect for his woman. Whoa,
what's happened here?
Yeah,
it's amazing. And so I mean, it's going to have to conclude in the next one, because it literally gets to the stage where he's about to fight the dead king. and that's when the story ends. So I'm really intrigued to see where that goes.
So that's a two-parter with and the others.
Aquaman and the others,
which you will catch us up on next.
Which I'll catch us up on next time.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to find out the answer to this. How on earth are the others going to get involved in this fight? It's literally happening underwater. But
maybe it's just like, as long as the jungle chick joins in, that counts.
Maybe. Okay, maybe it's that. Yeah, and maybe someone's going to end up with the shield, and we'll end up with a new other.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. That's okay. Yeah. It's not second guess the story, but yeah.
Cool. Right. That's it for stuff I've read and you haven't.
Yeah.
So let's move on to something we've both read and loved. Eternal.
Okay, Batman Eternal. Yeah, I completely agree. We will jump into that. You were primarily going to do this, might you? So if you want to.
Yeah,
take the bull by the horns.
I'll kick off. Right, there's been a lot. There's been a lot. We're up to 24, 25, possibly even more than that now. So we're not going to probably deal with the plot.
I think just overall explain what's going on.
Yeah.
So essentially what this book was to celebrate Batman 75 years. DC got Scott Snyder. Like I said, I get him and Zach confused because of their surname. To write a weekly book, or to be in charge of a weekly Batman book coming out, which is exciting stuff.
They're jumping around, mixing up artists and writers on a week by week basis. Just workload, I would imagine, is the driving force behind that. But it means that we get one story that is carrying on week by week with Batman. We have an embarrassment of riches with Batman,
and I was thrilled by the second I picked up this book because following Batman New 52, I love what we get from that run. But I would say we did get a little bit more of a green Batman, a Batman in training, as you were, not a Bat God, which we liked. Eternal,
not just in the 0 year, but in the main run.
He was fucking up left and right against those owls, and the Joker seemed to have his number in certain situations where. Batman Eternal, we go back to Bat God, don't we? He looks fucking amazing, and just happy with the tone of it in general. Yeah,
I want to the first, I want to say 4 or 5, and all the covers I think so far, all done by the same artist.
Yeah.
I think it's Jason Fabok.
Okay, yeah,
Fabok is the name I remember. That's how he signs off on the pictures. I want to do a huge shout out to that art because. I mean, are you the same? You absolutely love him.
I do, yeah. I mean, this book, and I'm not going to go too much into the comparisons, but I'll do it when I do at the end when we'll talk about it. But what I was happy about this book is not only do we get Batgod, we get him looking like that because of the artist. It feels like Hush. It feels like we're getting that, and like it's so exciting to be getting something that eventful.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely recommend, just as a kind of visual aid, if you're listening, Google Fabok, look at his cover art. It's incredible. I mean, just going to pick out some little details. Like he draws Batman's cloak so thin that it adheres to his shoulders and muscle. It's like grittier Jim Lee stuff.
Mm-hmm. I was going to compare him to Jim Lee. I don't think he is obviously as great as the legend Jim Lee, but
no one is.
No, but it's getting there, isn't it?
It's brilliant, and it's perfect for Batman as well. In the same way that I'd say Jim Lee is perfect for the clean cut Superman.
Yeah.
For this Fabok guy is absolutely knocking it out of the park. Every time he draws Batman, he's done the best version of the Red Robin costume I've ever seen. Best version of most of the costumes. I'm not going to get stuck on the art, but absolutely loving the art.
Now, the idea of Eternal is as of Hush. I mean, I imagine the idea was like, and I'm not saying this as a negative, I'm saying it's a positive as it is with Hush as well. Let's get as many characters involved in this story as possible.
Yeah, we've got, I don't even want to say cameos.
No.
But everyone's there as a major player.
It's almost like a relay race. It'll pass.
Spending a lot of time with Batwing.
Yeah.
That's from Batman Incorporated.
Yes, yeah.
I want to say Nigerian, might be wrong.
Yes.
Ugandan, something like that.
Yeah.
Some African country.
Yeah.
Sound absolutely ignorant, but African Batman of some description. We're getting a lot of time with the Bat family.
Yeah, we went off on... Because this is the thing about it, because it's each week, we can go off on these tangents, and that's what it feels like it's doing. Essentially, the story is Jim Gordon has committed a crime. He accidentally, while on duty, I believe he was chasing Professor Pig.
I was going to say how brilliant they started with Professor Pig as the inciting villain.
These are sort of the characters that we're throwing in there. Like they're like, where can we go? It's like almost like Beware the Batman of like, how obscure can we go with these characters? But yeah, so he fires his gun in a train station and ends up killing a lot of people. Is what happens. So he's been arrested.
Causes a train incident.
Yeah, he's essentially getting done for mass manslaughter.
Yeah.
And it's up for the Bat family to prove his innocence. Is essentially where it's going.
Yeah, Barbara's kind of off on one, understandably.
Yeah.
Batman has. It's brilliant the way it all got. Everyone went off doing their own thing, but Batman's still pulling the strings. You know, he's put everyone to task.
Yeah.
Barbara went off on one completely on her own. He tasked the Red Hood to keep tabs on her. It's become clear that he wasn't actually doing that. He didn't trust the Red Hood, so he sort of stuck him to
Barbara,
so that she can keep an eye on him because he completely trusts Barbara to go off doing her own thing.
We get some great, because I haven't really jumped into the Teen Titans stuff because it's just a little bit full on, but we get some great Drake stuff, like Tim Drake as Red Robin. I love spending time with that character. His tech is beyond what Batman has, because he's taken Batman's stuff and developed it himself, because he's always been that Robin, that little brainy bastard. I just love the geek Robin. It's really fun, like the tech nerd.
And there's a character as well that I touched on her earlier. That sounds wrong. I mentioned a character earlier that showed up in just these little sort of 2-page PSs in all the Batman runs. Yeah, essentially she was representing. She did become more and more into the story, but she was her and her brother were representing how hard it is to live in Gotham. Life in the Narrows. Yeah, not Life in the Narrows. Yeah, and this character is now Harper Row. Her name is Row.
She's now. Infiltrated the Bat family in a kind of cute in a way that we all would love to. Yeah. In kind of a way that I hear that Tim Drake did, like in that kind of like, I figured it out and I'm gonna like. Yeah, absolutely. And which is why it's Tim Drake she's hanging latched onto really. She, off of her smartphone, managed to sort of hack away past some of his tech and get onto his. I don't know if his little plane has a name. No. Let's call it the Robin. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So she's kind of in tow now, and she's helping him against his will. Now they're going. I imagine this book. I think you may have read a few more issues than I have. I imagine this book is going to be touching on a lot of Batman Inc. Have they gone off to Japan or something like that? Yes, we did hit Japan. Yeah, so you've seen us hit Japan, haven't you? I've got to the point where they did get to Japan. Yeah, I think that's about as deep as we've gone into. Yeah, okay. Brilliant to see the Japanese Batcave. Yes. With that's where Batman. I haven't gone. I haven't gone as far as that. You haven't seen the Japanese Batcave? No. Okay, we get you know how Batman has a T-Rex. Yeah. What would Japanese Batman have? Godzilla? Yeah! Oh, that's awesome. It's amazing. So Harper's fashioned herself just a little handkerchief mask and is starting to look like a member of the Bat family. What I think is brilliant is the guy who drew it first. Basically, she's just sort of poked some holes in this handkerchief mask of hers. And when she's looking out through it, it gives her the white bat eyes that every member of the Bat family has. And so it's just by throwing a handkerchief on, by drawing it that way, she looks like she's one of the Bat family. But in fact, she's just like makeshift costume. Yeah, it's a handkerchief. It's blue. She's the girl I mentioned earlier. Becomes Bluebird. Yeah. Midway in 0 year, we had a little bit of a break, forward. Didn't we? Yeah. To advertise Eternal, they were like, well, we'll just show you what's going on in the Eternal run. So they jumped to a point where we haven't got yet, I believe. Yeah, even in Eternal. Because it's of course, yeah, and we have a scene where Batman breaks into the Iceberg Lounge, I believe it is. I might be wrong. It is a casino of some kind, and Catwoman is pulling the strings in that place, and him and his new sidekick Bluebird, who is Harper, fucking kicks some ass. It's really good. It's a fantastic comic, and looks like it's going to be a fantastic character. Yeah, completely implemented by. Okay, Snyder or Schneider? Isn't it SN? Am I wrong? By Scott. SNY, yeah. So okay, Snyder. So a new character completely implemented by Snyder. And he's really laid the groundwork on it. Like, she was, just representing life in the Narrows with her brother who was being bullied. To, helping out Batman, sort of working out that he tapped into the grid. She's an electrician. Yeah. And so she was sort of starting to do little things to help Batman just, remotely. And
now it's developed into this, and we've seen where it's going as well. So it's what brilliant way to enter the Bat family and to bring the audience with you.
Is there too many people in the Bat family, though? Is that a criticism we have?
Is it bigger than the Justice League? Only when it reaches that point.
Yeah, I suppose, and we can just keep saying that Gotham's a big place. And
Red Robin, not Gotham based.
No, he's not. He's rocking around with the Titans, so he's not around there. Red Hood's the same. He's flying about doing everything.
Grayson, as is.
Let's not do the Grayson storyline at the moment. He's no longer Nightwing at the moment. He's working for the American government, I believe, is what they're going with.
In what looks like
I suppose you're right. And Damien's dead, so.
Or is he?
He at this point in time, he is not part of the Bat family. So, okay, there is room for that.
Yeah, we've got Batwoman as well. Again, she's a soul entity. She's not part of the Bat family.
Yeah, exactly. Huntress only helps out when it suits her. So,
again, we've got a couple of peripherals. So there's a core Bat family who the Joker invited to dinner.
Yeah. I suppose that's the best way of summing it up when we go who's involved and who's not. Were you invited to the dinner? If the answer is no, you're not part of the Bat family. Yeah, I suppose you're right. I'm really happy with what they're doing. I'm really excited. This is going to be a story for the ages. This is going to be one of those I was there moments. You are going to love having this collection. This is going to be this is an event of all time. This is a Batman moment that we're part of at the moment. I'm really happy with it. I think Snyder's doing some of his best work, even though he's just, he may not be writing every issue, but it's not been done before. Weekly Batman. I don't think so anyway.
Certainly not in any of the time I've been collecting. Now or before when it was.
So I think, and the story is just quality. Like I said, as I said before, I feel this is going to be a Hush standard of book. The only difference between Hush used the A-listers. It doesn't look like Snyder's going out of his way to kind of be quite obscure.
Yeah, I mean we opened it looked like our big villain of the whole piece was going to be Falcone.
Yeah,
Falcone. Depending on your school of thought.
Yeah.
But then where are you up to with Falcone?
No, we just found out that someone in Japan has kind of allowed him back into. He fucked off from Japan.
I need to lend you some more comics.
But
that, and then so there's you haven't read much about Blackfire?
No, Deacon's just turned
Deacon
up.
Blackfire?
Yeah, he's just turned up.
I'm learning a lot more. I should have checked where you were.
Yeah.
Blackfire is the direction it's currently going in. But then at one point, Joker's daughter was there.
There's a subplot regarding.
Something's happening in Arkham.
Bear with us. Something perhaps supernatural is happening in Arkham.
Well, the Spectre has taken Batwing to check it out.
Yeah, so the two of them are investigating. This is the thing about this story as well, is I'm going to be so much more educated by that area of the DC universe once we're done, because we're just going through characters. It was really, really good. In fact, we even had. Maxi Zeus, didn't we, at one point? And I was just like, holy shit, I haven't seen Maxi Zeus since pre-52. This is absolutely brilliant.
My only exposure to Maxi Zeus really was it was pre-52, was the Kevin Smith run.
Jaya, was it?
Jaya, Widening Jaya.
Yeah. Or was it Cacophony? No, it was Jaya.
It was Jaya.
Yeah. I always remember Zeus. There's a really good Zeus episode of Batman the Animated Series. I think it may have been when it became. Batman
was he called?
He was called Maxi.
Oh right, now I'm thinking of in the Adam West TV show there was a Maxi Zeus-like character.
Yeah, King Tut.
King Tut.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't know if that was. I don't know what came first with King Tut or Maxi Zeus. So is that?
That's I mean, we could probably talk about. I mean, I'm now nervous about going into plot because I'm not sure where you are. But as an overview of Eternal, it is a weekly comic. It's exploring a lot of characters, going in a lot of different directions. I don't yet know where it's going. We're 24 issues in, and that's not bothering me because I can tell it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not gonna, it's not gonna be lost. It's not gonna turn out they're all in purgatory. It's not gonna be The Sopranos. It's not gonna cut to black. It feels like it's gonna have a conclusion.
As long as the ending isn't the Joker.
I agree. Yeah, I'd
be upset.
I want to say the Joker's played out because absolutely not. It's a fantastic villain, fantastic character, but. Recently overused.
The games, I think, have done it to death for me. I think the Arkham games, as much as I love them, the fact that the Joker turns out to be the linchpin every single time is exhausting me.
Right, okay. That's all I have to say on Eternal.
Excellent. To move on, because obviously Eternal being 75-year anniversary celebration for Batman. I, as promised, are going to do an overview on Superman Unchained, which came out last year and is obviously for the anniversary of Superman 75 years.
It's been out for a year longer than Eternal.
And is on issue 8. Yeah. The reason... I mean, this is Snyder again. He just seems to be the man of the hour.
He's probably bashed out all the stories, though.
I imagine the hold-up is, and this is me talking out of my ass, but from what I hear rumours-wise about the industry, this is Uber artist Jim Lee having too much work to do.
Currently, I don't want to say editor,
Co-editor.
Him
and Dan Dio, I believe.
Of all of DC.
Yeah, so he's been given the task to pen these books, and it's probably every 4 months we get one. It's a little bit ridiculous. It is one of those things that I keep losing the plot. I have to keep going back and reading them. So I've read issue 1 to death because I have to keep catching up the story every time it comes out.
I picked up the first few altogether and decided to keep on collecting. I haven't read any of them because I got wind of this release schedule and was like, fuck that. I will wait until I have them all and I will treat myself.
And a treat it will be.
Yeah.
Like, I am happy with it.
Because I remember when you were just reading them once a month and then like not refreshing yourself.
I was getting lost,
lost,
wasn't I?
yeah.
I remember I was like on issue 3 and I was like, meh. Like, get to see Jim Lee draw. That was pretty much the only thing I got to say. But together they're very coherent. Essentially, what we got going on is, the storyline is, I'll try and break it down for you. Government have an alien like Superman. His name's Raph. Hey Longboxers, this is Doug coming back from the future. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to apologise. My review on Superman Unchained, I keep referring to the villain involved, the antagonist as you will, as a character called Raph. I don't know why, I think I may have had Ninja Turtles on the mind or something. The character is actually called Rafe. So when you hear the rest of the podcast or my review on Superman, every time you hear the word Raph, please think Rafe. Unless we are talking about the Ninja Turtles, of course, then it is Raph. Okay, thank you very much. Back to the podcast. And they've had him for 75 years. Now he's been working with the government, and he's a bit better than Superman. Essentially, he's got the same powers, but he's managed to enhance them to use them in a better way. Okay. So that's what we got going on.
Kryptonian?
No, but a species very similar. They don't look. He's kind of blue and looking badass. Kind of dark side looking kind of thing. Lois is investigating a terrorist group that have alien tech.
Okay.
So that's going on there, and Luthor's got to be there in the background, of course. So Luthor is escaped from prison. So it's essentially what we've got going on there. I don't want to go into too much because I don't want to really ruin the story, but essentially the terrorist group are trying to kill Superman and Raph.
And Raph?
Yes.
Okay. So Raph and Superman haven't teamed up?
No, I mean, they kind of came... It was by chance meeting, like the government...
Okay.
General Lane is...
I assume from the way you were telling that before, Raph was being like...
used to kill Superman.
Yeah, trained as some sort of anti-Superman.
No, he's basically doing what the government would love Superman to do. Okay. Oh, go and fight this war, go and do this.
So it's Superman as used in
Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, essentially
government whipping boy, but all powerful alien.
Yeah, and they do team up together and help. There's a really good moment in there where Raph talks to Superman about like the one thing I haven't done that they've asked me to do is spy on you. Which I don't see as necessary, and why don't you see that necessary? It's a part of your life that I find very interesting, and I imagine this has been done time and time again in the Superman story, but just seeing it drawn out is it was like, well, you're pretending this other life that you're human. Now imagine where you work and what you do. Yeah. Now open that door 10 years time. Now open that door in 40 years time, and it's just like you. This is your first lifetime with the humans, but you're going to have that problem where they're going to die off and you're going to be the same, and it was kind of quite a nice kind of...
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's interesting, that because I mean you're right, that's been explored before, the fact that Superman doesn't age with the rest of us, but it's interesting to see it highlighted that this is his first go round.
Yeah.
Like, this, we can look at stories like, I'm trying to think of a good example of sort of more like sort of various versions of vampire stories where they're like having their life, and every now and again they have to reinvent, and they've had sort of 50 lives, under the name of the vampire Lestrade, whatever. But this is Clark Kent
Yeah.
is the only Superman we've ever seen.
I mean,
let's not explore wider continuities, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's always his first human life. Like, he's an immortal.
Now, this is a thing that it needs to be explored, that this book has done, but I understand that he doesn't age at the same rate as humans, but I always had the understanding that he did age.
Oh, yeah, I suppose he must have, because he got to the age he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not super baby.
No.
But, I don't know, sometimes I wonder if it's kind of like an elf from Lord of the Rings, like you age to a point,
and
then you don't age, but no.
I always saw him being like Wolverine, where he'd get older,
eventually grey creeps in.
Yeah.
I guess the kind of best example is Earth 2 Superman, the one that after the big first reboot for DC, the one that stuck around was Superman with a streak of grey who'd been around a bit longer.
Yeah.
So he does age just
slower, which
is fine. Still going to give him a lot of life.
But yeah, that was just interesting for Raph to be like, I don't need to, like, you're going to give that up soon, so I really don't give a fuck about that. It was an interesting point. I'm not going to break down the plot and then because I think that'll get a little bit boring. But the cool bits, the things that I'd sell on this book, first and foremost, Lee drawing it, Jim Lee. Absolutely.
I had a thumb through. I don't know whether it's just this issue, but does Superman fight quite a lot?
Yeah.
that looked like flicking through the end of Man of Steel.
You just picked up issue 8.
It's 8. I've got
that one is just page after page of them fucking throwing down. It is like the end of the whole book is not like that. What is great about Lee drawing is Snyder decided to write in Batman into the story, so you get to see Jim Lee draw Batman.
I remember an interview with Jim Lee. He is very regimented. Like, he will always draw the soles of Batman's shoes.
Oh, it's amazing. It looks amazing. Like, when I get to see some bat boot, I love it. Like, only Jim Lee does it, and it's great.
And it's always the same boot. Like, he knows the tread of Batman's shoe. That's a committed artist.
the another cool bit that they do as well is Raph turns up, and I think I might be quite. I'm pretty sure I only read it not that long ago. I'm pretty sure the character's called Raph, the guy. You might.
If you get this wrong, it's going to be some tricky fucking editing.
Yeah. But he at one point, it doesn't. Relationships go south with Superman, and therefore go south with Batman. He then decides to hunt down Batman at one point and fight him in the Batcave.
Raph does also.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we have Batman's created, because he's fucking smart, he's Batman. He's got a stealth suit that can't be detected by Kryptonians or creatures like Kryptonians. And you have Raph trying to play fucking cat and mouse with Batman in the Batcave, and you get to see every fucking Jim Lee Batmobile using the missile being thrown at fucking. It's just a great, like, you get to see the detailed Jim Lee drawing not only the Batmobiles but the Batcave.
It feels like, from what you're saying, like Snyder just kind of put together a wish list of shit he wanted Jim Lee to draw.
Yeah.
And then just tied them together into a story.
This is going to sound out of the blue, out of context, but she is set up earlier on because there's a moment where they have to speak to the Justice League. Wonder Woman turns up as well in the Batcave and helps Batman in this little predicament. So you have, like, she picks up the T-Rex and uses a fucking as a baseball bat. It's just like
oh my god!
It's absolutely amazing. It's great. But that's nothing. Finally, the two of them, because while this is going on, Superman's protecting the fortress against General Lane. After that happens, he goes and then goes to fight Raph, and they like you just saw, they absolutely throw down. And a cool moment. It's a moment that's always talked in, like, folklore of Superman, but I've never seen it firsthand. Fucking Superman just punches him through the moon. Like, just keeps pounding on him through the fucking moon. And it's like, yes,
like Zod in the game. Yeah, just plows him through the moon.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It's just like,
I hope from now on, whenever Jim Lee draws the moon, it's got like just a couple of little fracture trails.
You can see a hole through it. Yeah. No, it was like, for 75 years of Batman, that's what we expect. That's always been talked about. Like, he can punch someone through the moon.
Yeah, you're right. The folklore is the right term. It's like one of those kind of, like, almost racing the Flash type moments.
Yeah.
Shit you want to see him do, and one of them is punch someone through the moon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, I was so happy it was on my cool bits list. So the story ends with Superman. Well, issue 8 ends with Superman defeating Raph. He leaves him under a. They find a little mantle in the middle of the earth, a little like pocket.
Okay.
Because Superman's like, this guy's stronger than me. I need to think smart. There, he can't get Earth's rays.
So he too absorbs the sun's rays. Okay.
Yeah. So
he's like from Krypton's fucking twin planet.
Yeah. I mean, he just says a planet not unlike your own.
Okay. So all the powers, but Batman's little green rock isn't going to take him down.
Yeah. I think is where they're going. There is a by the by where that's the reason he's pissed with Batman, because Batman learns something to do with electricity or something. Builds Superman a fucking weapon.
Against Raph.
Yeah, and Raph.
Just in case, the way Batman does.
Just in case. This guy that you're hanging out with. Yeah, exactly, and that's when he's pissed. I don't know how we found the Batcave, by the way. I don't know how Raph did that, because...
I'm going to go X-ray vision.
No one else can.
That's true. Has Soups found it in this?
Perhaps, but I believe that's due to friendship.
What's that big lead-lined bubble under Wayne Manor?
yeah, that's true. So the issue ends with him left for dead, but obviously not dead. Superman turns up, like, ta-da, and then Lex Luthor shows up and he's like, ha. This alien tech that these terrorists are using is from Raph's people, and they're about to invade, motherfucker. I have this, essentially he was like, I knew that Superman would always, always die, and this is the way he's going to do it. Essentially Lex sets up this thing, was like, you're going to be the Trojan horse, Superman. I've got this, this syringe full of things that will turn you supernova. It will turn you into a super bomb. This sounds out of context, but this has been set up from issue 1 onwards. So it's like, okay, Raph's not here. There's those guys are coming to invade. You're going to be our super bomb. You're going to have to sacrifice yourself to save the world. And he's like, I don't know that you'll do it as well, because you're Chief Justice in the American way. You're definitely going to do it, and that's how we've left it. I was under the impression there was only going to be 9 issues, but I've also been told that the last issue will be out in April. But knowing Jim Lee, that could
just be that we got one more to come out. Maybe it'll go to 10. 10 seems more like a more sensible number. I knew it was never going to be a long run.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the sort of standard run? 12.
Yeah. I mean, 6 to 12 is what you do. It depends on what kind of side story you want to do.
But with this type of thing, with coming out so frequently.
Yeah.
So they have Unchained and Eternal. We could talk at length about the nuances and clever little things that happen in Eternal. But you'll sell a lot more comics by saying Superman punches him through the moon.
yeah. I think that's the difference. I said Eternal will come out eventually as a nice little sexy hardback.
And I'll probably buy that as well.
I think that everyone should have that in their collection. I think it will be one of the Superman stories to tell. It'll be along there with All-Star Superman, or
it'll be popping up in those lists.
Those all-time lists. That's my predictions anyway, and I'm really happy.
Speaking of those all-time lists,
yes, I said I'd do it, didn't I? Right. It's a good job we are talking about those all-time lists. The best way to describe this, when you're a fan of anything, like whether it be music or football or a TV show or films, especially films, be a fan of some prequels that came out where the 20 years or so the films were way better than they were. You always have that feeling. You're always told you missed out. What you like is okay, but before you've always missed out, haven't you? You've always felt
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. You like music, but Woodstock was years ago, and the Star Wars trilogy. I remember being a kid with my lightsaber, and it's you don't even know, kid, how good it used to be. I feel like that's the same as being a Batman fan. Sorry.
Yeah.
It always feels like you're treading water, doesn't it? It's what you're reading's okay, but you weren't around when Miller wrote fucking Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
They always pulls you, or they get even a little bit closer where they're like, oh, you missed out with Jeff Loeb when he wrote The Long Halloween, and you're just like, fuck, you're right. I wasn't around with those seminal books. I honestly believe, I'll talk about Earth 1 now. Earth 1 is one of those books, and it happened, only a couple of years at a time. We were collecting comics when we were there. When that book
there. So in 10 years' time, when you're telling your kid, You're quite liking your Batman run there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, exactly. Like
you weren't there, man.
you weren't there when
Earth 1 dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
The great thing about Earth 1 is that it is a graphic novel.
Yes, exactly. In the purest sense, not in this kind of. I mean, there's a word that's thrown around too much, graphic novel, because they largely don't exist anymore.
I try to distinguish between graphic novel and trade paperback.
Yeah, you're good at it. I don't. I just say anything that's bound together is a graphic novel, which is not the case. So we don't usually get graphic novels in that true sense anymore. But Earth 1 is that. In that nice
absolutely,
way.
yeah. It's a one shot in that it's a one off story.
Yeah.
But it's longer than 20 odd pages. It is a graphic novel. That is, I believe, how you would distinguish. I mean, people will disagree with me if I'm wrong. Internet.
Yeah.
But a graphic novel is something that's set out to be
Standalone
beginning to end a book.
And not released in.
Not released in single issues. Anyway, we dithered enough. Earth 1 is a
Right.
graphic novel. What's
Yeah.
it about?
Just explain what the Earth 1 brand means first of all. I mean, there is actually a long answer to it, which involves Infinite Crisis and things like that. I'm not going to get into it.
For the banner, not the place.
For the purpose of this conversation, Earth 1 is just a title that means not in continuity. We are setting it in our own universe, and it doesn't link to the DCU. So
it's not like Marvel now. It's not a separate continuity into which they're pouring books. It is
like the Nolanverse. It's a Batman story on its own in the universe where nothing else.
And
exists.
as far as we know, not even connecting with each other. So because there has been a Superman Earth 1, we've got wonderfully. I've only recently learned a Wonder Woman Earth 1 is coming. Next year.
Yes, in 2015. Yeah.
And they're all stories in isolation.
As far as we understand, nothing has suggested otherwise. They might eventually go, ta-da! They are all the same universe. But from what we know about these books at the moment, they are all in their own separate bubble, so you don't have to worry about each other, which is just glory. I know we love.
What a way into comic books as well if you're not into it.
Absolutely, and that's how I would sell this book to anyone. Like, if you get into, everyone knows Batman, read this story. But it's almost like at the moment with films, we love the idea of all our films being in the same universe and linking. But early 2000s, we didn't. We liked them being all separate and not in the same universe. This is what these books do. They go back towards that. Essentially, Batman Earth 1, it's a very toned down version of Batman. I mean, if you think Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is toned down, it makes Nolan's Batman look like the brave and the bold. Like, literally, this Batman, like, nothing.
It's grassroots.
Yeah, very, very grassroots. Yeah, absolutely. Essentially, and because, like I said, set in its own universe, they're allowed to. They're liberal with what it's the characters that you know and love, and the mythology that you know and love.
They've not been afraid to adapt.
Absolutely, and mix it up and change it around. So essentially, the plot is this: we end up with Thomas Wayne. Bruce is a little kid. Thomas Wayne is running for mayor. He is a doctor. Upstanding member of the community. He's fucking part of the Wayne family, for fuck's sake. He's running for mayor. And he's getting some death threats. He's running against a candidate, Cobblepot. He's running against Cobblepot, so we get our
Pengy for mayor.
Yeah, we get Pengy for mayor. Indeed, I completely forgot about that term there. And he's getting some death threats. I assume because at the beginning of the story, red flag, Cobblepot's corrupt.
Yeah, so that's the good thing. It relies on you to not necessarily rely on you to know anything. But if if you've heard of Batman, you know that Cobblepot is a bad guy. And so you benefit from having that red flag. It allows any extended knowledge to enhance the experience, but it's not reliable.
Well said. Yeah. So he's getting some death threats. So it's like, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to protect my family. So he hires Wayne is a doctor. Thomas Wayne is a doctor. He used to be a doctor for the military. He did his stint in the military, like every good, upstanding citizen. And he has a friend in the military. So he gets his friend to be head of his security, who is Alfred Pennyworth. So he comes in, and we get a badass Alfred.
Yeah, it's like I would say XMI5.
Yeah, or something.
Some British intelligence.
Yeah, something like that. He met, and he's now retired. So he employs him to be head of his security. It's a great introduction to the character, and we get a useful Pennyworth.
Yeah, I mean, we've always had a butler being thrown into, and now I need you to man the comms. I'm underqualified for this. So we have a qualified Alfred.
Yeah, a qualified Alfred. Someone's up for the challenge. So the story continues as the Batman story that you know and love. So they go to the pictures.
Is it Zorro in this one?
I can't remember if it is Zorro.
I'm gonna flick.
Okay, let's find out if it is Zorro. We'll inform you. Yeah, so they go to the pictures and he gets shot. The Waynes get shot like they always do, and Bruce is there. The birth of Batman, as the story it usually is. Is it?
It is Zorro. Yeah, I've just flicked through. We start off, so it opens with a kind of a now, then, and now we've got Batman on the streets, which is a sequence I'm sure you're going to talk about shortly.
Okay.
Then it cuts back to little. It's almost wordless, but it's kid watching Zorro, parents leave.
Okay.
Pearls.
So as we know, parents die, pearls hit the ground. As we're used to that story, Bruce is distraught. Now, how this story plays out is obviously he gets taken to the police station, and Alfred has been announced as his guardian. So Alfred then becomes Batman.
Reluctantly so.
Of course, yeah. He's ex-military. He doesn't want to be looking after a child in a strange house.
The grumpy old limping old badass.
So what we have in this story is obviously same as normal. Bruce wants to get revenge. And instead of going off, he wants to become this vigilante to this is a little bit more narrow-minded than I'm going to clear up the streets. What Bruce Wayne's motive is he wants to find the killer of his parents, because that's never been, they don't know who it is. So he spends his teen years having Alfred train him to be this person that can do that. So instead of him, this is what I mean about being a ground root story, rather than being like, oh, I'm going off to train with the League of Assassins, or I'm going to learn to, I'm going to train with Zatanna and his dad to do this and that and that.
But he doesn't become a god over his teen years.
No, he doesn't. Or the years that he's away. I don't want to break it down, because in some stories he goes away when he's 18 and comes back when he's 30.
It's not breaking down.
There isn't that going away and then coming back Batman. He stays in Gotham and trains. Now, because of that, we get a very toned down Batman. He's, dare I say it, rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
certainly opens that way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that opening sequence.
Okay, so the opening sequence is Batman, modern day, wearing the batsuit. Really nice batsuit, really well drawn.
It looks sort of fabric-y and classic, but still badass.
It's the batsuit we all want them to make, but probably look shit in real life.
Yeah. We think it would look good in cinema, but prove us wrong, Ben.
But the one thing that they have done is they draw the eyes of Batman, don't they? It's not the white.
Not even. There's no. It's certainly in the earlier version, because he wears a couple of costumes throughout the book. There's not even any black makeup.
No.
Behind the eyes, and it is so human.
Yes. Which I think kind of sums up the theme of what Batman is there. But the first scene is him chasing a perp. Obviously, he thinks he's got something to do with the death of his parents, chasing them across the rooftops. He pulls out his trusty
grappling hook gun,
which looks very low tech for Batman. It looks like it's for rock climbing or something like that. He goes to fire it, and it fucks up.
Yeah, it just explodes into a spool of mangled metal and wire, and he just
loses his perp. Yeah, and that's kind of what we have a Batman in training.
We have him literally fall into a pile of bins.
Oh yeah.
The grappling hook doesn't work. He's got to just jump the roof. He fails. Yeah. He lands in bins. And then it cuts to the flashback that we've just described, establishing the death of the Waynes.
And I just like that idea of not going away, just doing the training there and then, because you end up with an adequate Batman, someone who can throw a punch, can take a punch, he knows how to fight, but he isn't this god that can run parkour or anything like that. It's just not. I don't want to say that it's more believable, but it's
more grounded.
Yeah, more grounded, I think, and I think that's really summed up by the idea of the villain is Cobblepot, because it's not someone that he needs to physically throw down on.
The other thing it does, which is really great, is it does a good job of taking potentially ridiculous villains, and in the sense the same sort of Nolan way, with characters like Cobblepot, not using him as the dastardly penguin. But as a political, and it throws in a henchman, which was so well done and fleshed out, even though he was only in for a few pages. I assumed must be a character from Bat history somewhere. The birthday boy.
Yeah, I was just going to crack into that. What we got going on as well is this isn't as narrow as perhaps we're telling the story, because the other characters that we're setting up and playing with as well is Gordon. We get to see Gordon and Bullock. This book will be talked about, by the way, a lot in the next coming months, because the parallels between this and Gotham, the TV show, is many, and one of them will be the link between Gordon. You know, this book starts with Bullock and Gordon getting together as a partnership.
The Bullock in this
is not any Bullock we've ever seen before. It's the other way around, though. In the Gotham TV show, which I will touch on a little bit later, we have a corrupt Gotham, and Bullock is part of that system, reluctantly so. And Gordon comes along and is like, no, this won't do, and they're slowly going to change. In this book, unusually, it's the other way around. Gordon isn't the upstanding citizen. He is trapped in the system of corruptness.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it.
Just making his way.
He's just making his way. Bullock, on the other hand...
I wouldn't have remembered if I hadn't just cracked the spine of this book and taken a look. But he hosts like a cops type TV show.
Bullock is clean-shaven, Hollywood...
shining teeth and...
Hollywood personality. He does a cop show in LA, and the series is run. He's been very successful running his TV show. What he wants to do is become infamous, though. So his hidden agenda is to come to Gotham City to solve the cold case of the Wayne murders. That's what his plan is.
He's just a total glory hound.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he comes to Gotham, teams up with Gordon, and is dismayed by like the corruption and the way that things are done in Gotham. And Gordon's a little bit like, shrugs his shoulders and is like, well, what can I do? And it's the intervention of Bullock around, which will then make Gordon become the man that we know he is. It's kind of like eventually we'll get to the Gordon we know and love.
Yeah.
But in this origin, he isn't that man, which is just a really interesting take. I mean, unfortunately, we don't get our Bullock that we're used to.
Yeah, I mean, it almost wasn't worth them using the name Bullock.
Yeah.
It's like, are they implying he became the New Yorker that we get in all the other adaptations?
Like we said, because this is like so liberally adapted, it doesn't really matter. I just think it's a nice little nod.
I was thinking it could have been Harvey Dent, but in that it's like a more established, clean cut, by the booker. Could have had him starting out as a cop, but no, they went Bullock. I suppose just like keeping the fact that there's a partnership there. Yeah, it's like the thing we all know and love to latch onto, and just totally changing the dynamic of it. It works. I think he ends up being a brilliant character, but not any Bullock we've ever seen.
The book ends with him. The book ends with Gordon being very much upbeat, but Gotham is starting to drag Bullock down. So again, we might get to a point where Bullock does become more representative of the Bullock that we know and love. Like he starts to get a drinking problem and things like that. Like the harsh life of Gotham by the end of the book
is getting to Bullock.
Yeah.
So potentially it is suggesting that it drags him to become the more sort of lackadaisical and less physically in shape Bullock.
Now, getting back to what you were saying about this henchman, although Bullock is there for his own means, him and Gordon have a case that they're given. It's quite an exciting case. They're investigating the kidnapping of some teen girls, which turns out to be...
Not even teen. We're dealing with young girls, aren't we?
Oh, okay. I assume because Barbara got mixed up involved.
Oh, maybe I might be misremembering. Maybe it's young girls.
Yeah, young girls is getting kidnapped. So, again, going back to the grounded moment, we're just dealing with kidnappers here. This isn't the Joker like poisoning the water or big massive typewriters that Batman's being strapped to.
There's no Smilex gas or death traps.
Exactly. This is kind of very grounded and set in a world that
It's a story that wouldn't be out of place in the Nolan. I mean, it's going to be difficult not to keep drawing the Nolan comparison. This is a what if Batman actually happened type story.
Yeah, because like I said, Nolan looks like Brave and the Bold in this, because there is no like League of Assassins or anything as what sounds.
There's no tech that is so far beyond what is possible with.
I mean, I believe that we get a Lucius Fox as well, and he works for the hospital. He's the techie for the hospital.
Yeah, like an MRI technician.
Yeah, and that's how him and Wayne.
Yeah, might be misremembering that, but yeah, he's a technician for the hospital.
Yeah, I mean the cool bits that this book deals with is, like I said, the Green Batman. Absolutely great to see a Batman we can relate to. I know everyone, because this is the thing. I was like, I love Batman because all you need to do is, like, if you had a bunch of money and you worked out lots, you could be Batman. I always argue that. I'm like, no.
You also have to be Sherlock Holmes.
Well, I put it to you, it is more of a possibility for your dad to pull you to one side and be like, we found you in this crate and you came from Krypton, than it is to be fucking Batman. Because that guy is a god.
I agree.
Because Bruce Wayne is just like, he's the greatest detective in the world.
So going back,
machine.
we talked earlier about Terry McGinnis and the fact that he was a Batman. The only reason he was able to be Batman is because he was a clone of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something other about him. I don't know.
He's just so
Let's not try and talk
regimented.
about him like he's a real person, but the idea behind Bruce Wayne is that only Bruce Wayne could be Batman.
Yes,
Like,
I
it
agree.
gets overlooked when people say, you know, like, oh, I
Well,
could
you
never
needed
have
some money,
superpowers, but
yeah.
I could be Batman. No, you couldn't.
No.
Because you'd have to be Bruce Wayne first.
It's more likely for you to get the powers of Shazam than it is to be mentally strong enough to be Bruce Wayne.
You are better off going and getting some spiders.
Yeah,
and just hoping one of them
is radioactive. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Whereas Earth 1 Batman, you could totally be Earth 1 Batman.
I could be Earth 1 Batman from that opening scene.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. That is something that you could head towards. And it's set in a world like Kick-Ass. It's set in a world where they are the villains that you
Yeah,
can fight.
and there haven't been other heroes, and there's no, as far as we know, no Joker, no absolutely mental supervillains
No.
upping the ante. He's just a guy who snapped and became Batman.
Although there will be sequels to Earth 1, and I believe that we will slowly.
Probably see a Joker.
Yeah, we will slowly build up. The hard ass Alfred is, like, I know we touched upon that before, but I just want to hit home on, like, that is an idea that since Earth 1, and it was only 2 years ago this book's come out, there's been 2 versions of Alfred that have now copied this. Like, Gotham is now using a bit
And the
more.
other one is, I want to say, Beware the Batman.
Beware the Batman as well is even more so like that. Like, these Alfreds are, shave 15 years off their age and
Give them a rich history.
Yeah.
Even the one even the Batman in the current run. In fact, frequently Batman has that history of he was in the military doctor. That's why he can patch up.
Oh, you mean
Bruce Wayne.
sorry, you mean Alfred? You said Batman.
Did I say Batman?
Yeah.
I meant Alfred.
Yeah.
An Alfred with a history where he's been in the military, he can patch up Batman because he's got that past, and so there's always a hint that he knows what he's doing in terms of tactics and military procedure. But you're right, just by shaving those few years off him and giving him the physical ability to still get involved,
he's almost like a Robin before Robin, isn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. And you get these great scenes of, like, and that's the great thing about this book as well. So he wants to go out and do his thing. Batman wants to investigate. So Alfred's like, okay, here's the shotgun. He's like, what? He's like, you're going out with a gun, right? He's like, no guns. And Alfred's like screaming,
What are you talking
you
about,
are
no
fucking
guns?"
mental, no guns. Like, you expect him to do this job without a gun. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you have these great human moments between, because Alfred and Bruce are kind of father and son kind of arguments that you don't get that, because usually their relationship is, yes, sir, I will,
yeah, he's no bitch.
the usual excuse again, sir. But that's not what this is. This is very much like, fuck you, I'm in charge. Like,
Yeah.
you're a stupid kid.
He calls the shots.
Yeah, absolutely, and he reluctantly helps Bruce in his kind
I mean,
of
I
quest.
do. I let's not poo-poo the old Alfred. I love Butler Alfred.
Oh, yeah,
I
of
love
course, of
pencil
course.
mustache. Like, I could give you advice that you shouldn't be doing this, but I'll just put your dinner in the oven. So. I love that.
Yes, of
that's
course,
funny.
the
Those
sarcastic,
quips,
yeah,
the sarcastic prick Alfred sometimes, but generally
But how
always a
interesting is
waiting boy.
this is a really interesting adaptation.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time Alfred's been done like that.
Yeah,
as far as I know.
definitely. Yeah, you definitely. That is Jeff Johns. That's his idea. That's
Yeah.
definitely his idea. And like I
Fantastic
said,
idea.
it's being used in. I don't know how many times we're going to see Alfred being done. Eventually it may be the version of, like, when we talk about Jarvis now from
People
from
think
Iron Man,
of an AI.
Yeah, when in fact Jarvis was not an AI before.
Yeah, he
it's
was
just-
Jeeves. Like, he was a butler. He was an
Yeah.
Alfred.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly feel like the reason that was changed is because, well, we don't really want people will make that comparison to Alfred as soon as this Iron Man character gets bigger. We can't have this this character being very Jeeves like.
I'm happy with that decision. It got us to the Vision.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no, it's a smart idea. But my comparison was this could be the Alfred that we all know and love. This might change the way that Alfred is.
Let's jump back into that scenario 10 years in the future where you're talking to your kid about how brilliant this is, and you can be also like, this is when Alfred became the Alfred that you think is Alfred.
Some of the other changes, which are quite liberal as well, probably going to annoy some people, but I'm just like, okay, it's your own little continuity, you can do it. Martha Wayne, she's a Kane usually, isn't she? Yeah, she's part of the Kane family.
She's an Arkham?
She's an Arkham in this, yes. She's part of the... Which just kind of goes... It's just a little thing to go with, like, you need to be a little bit mental to be Batman. And it's because Bruce has got some Arkham involved in him. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah, and I think...
When was Kane established as well? Like,
I'm not too sure.
The Wayne, Kane and Arkham thing, big in the Court of Owls, that was a big chunk of that
story. And the Cold Pots and stuff. Like, it was always about the old families. And now that wasn't... I'm not going to make that Court of Owls, but... My first kind of introduction to like Gotham of old was a Snyder and Carl Higgins story called Gates of Gotham.
Yeah,
and they really go deep in that. I'm not going to credit that because I don't know my history. There are books such as Gotham Under Gaslight that may cover this idea of like her being part of the Kane family.
Yeah, I mean, with the 75 years of Batman, she's been given a history before, I'm sure. Wayne and Kane was what I knew, and I don't know whether I'm just getting that from Court of Owls, but this is before that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The history I knew was
actually no, that's 2012, where I believe.
Okay,
stuff started about 2011.
Okay. Yeah. My mistake.
But and again, like I said, the Kane stuff was set up in Gates of Gotham, which was years before that.
And we mix up by throwing in the Arkham family. Making.
It's just a nice little touch, like
Martha Arkham.
Because we always have that argument. We always have that thing about Batman, don't we? Like, is he crazy? Is there a bit of crazy in him, or is he just like Grant Morrison says? No, he's just ahead of the curve. Like, you just don't. He comes off as crazy to you because you cannot contemplate how smart Bruce Wayne is. But this goes, like I said, with a grounded version. Maybe he has got a little bit of crazy in him. That's why he dresses like a bat. And that's kind of like...
They don't really go massively into why he dresses like a bat in this one either, do they?
There is an epiphany that happens to him in his teen years.
Is it the usual epiphany?
No, it involves Japanese statues in one of the... He's in the with the gravestones, and I think he comes across a tomb.
Yep. Yeah. I'm going to flip through just to keep this. It's actually Thomas and Martha Wayne's tomb.
Okay, and
he goes in to spend some time with them, and there is some spooky ass bat armor, which is presumably just one of those sort of samurai armors that buried some of their creepier possessions along with them apparently in this mausoleum, and that along with bats flying out.
Is what inspires him.
But we don't go too deep into it. It's just kind of, okay, there's him looking at that bat thing, then there's him dressed as a bat. It's just it inspired him. Which, to be honest, plays about as well as a bat flying through the window.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean...
Possibly Nolan did it best. That's sacrilege. But by giving him a fear of bats.
And him being like, I physically need to use that fear. Yeah. The one thing I wanted to... That was the next point I wanted to touch upon, which I will talk about Nolan doing as well, is there is this... When adapting this story, which both Nolan and Johns now needed to do again, this origin story, you've got to explain that I'm dressed like a bat. Because we can be like, okay, his parents get killed, he wants to avenge his death.
Why is he not the Punisher?
I mean, well, the answer... because the real answer is why is he dressed like a bat? Well, that's how the story's always been, is the real answer. But we now need to write a reason for this. Now, Nolan came up with it, and it's absolutely fine, and now Jeff Johns came up with the idea of bats and the suit of armour. The other question, that the real answer is, because that's the way it's always been done, you can't use that as the answer, why the cape? Because you can dress up like a bat all you want. Why are you wearing a stupid cape? Like the way the Incredibles dealt with it, that's stupid. A cape is
cape. No capes.
Now Nolan came up with a good idea of he needs it.
He actually uses it to glide.
Yeah, for jumping. Yeah. Now Earth 1 unfortunately can't use this idea because Earth 1 is he doesn't have that type of tech.
No,
he's a ground to Earth thing. So it's something that
you can always argue it's just to help cast the silhouette of a bat.
Yeah, but no, Johns finds a way around it, because I believe there's a point where Alfred kind of mocks the cape and he insists upon it, and then when he fights the birthday boy makes a quip about it. It's like, what is this cape? And he's got a plan for it. It's a weapon. He uses it as a weapon in a very James Bond kind of. He does a wrap round. He's he's planned a move on this cape can be my ally, and it's a very nice kind of like you got around the cape by explaining it in some sort of way. Yeah. I was really happy with that.
I mean, if you go back in time, sword fights would fencing to an extent would be done in capes to disguise what you were going to do.
Yeah,
a sort of shoulder cloak sort of thing. Not that, unfortunately. It's you can't make that argument. I'd love it if someone did, just in a kind of Bruce Wayne studying ancient battle techniques.
Yeah.
And disguising the way you're going to use a blow by using a cloak. But no, it's just to make him look more like a bat. It's part of the costume.
Yeah, I mean, but I did like the idea of him being like, I do have a function for this. I have got a type of plan. I did decide that this was something I'm going to use, and it is a nice little, because that's almost like the final blow of the fight. It's just like, haha, I'll use the cape. And
a rope would have done a better job, but
yeah, I know. But
it uses the cape. It goes out of its way to justify it.
Yeah, which I'm quite happy with, and there was a moment that I quite liked, and the last panel as well. I mean, do we spoil that last panel, or should we let people? No, okay. All I'll say, people, is read the book, because the last panel is like, okay, we've done this story, and then you're like, oh, okay, and you cannot wait for there to be a sequel to this book.
I had forgotten completely what you were talking about, picked it back up, and now I'm like, can't wait for there to be another one. But I would also argue that last panel, there's probably a lot of other things it could have been. It doesn't necessarily tie the rest of the book.
No,
but if it does, that's even better.
I mean, that's the great thing, is it's a standalone book. I mean, if we kind of imagine that a comic book that you pick up every month, you compare that to a TV show, it's an episode of a TV show, I would say that this is the film.
Right, yeah.
That's how I feel. It's such a great read. I've read it several times. Just every time you can do it, because, like you said, it's only a few hundred pages or something. 100 or so pages.
If that, yeah. Probably, I'd say 100 pages. I'm not going to count.
It's probably, yeah.
But we're looking at, this would be your 6-issue run as opposed to
12, yeah. And so you get it done in an afternoon, as you would have. It probably takes you as long as it takes to watch a film.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It just has that. Like I said, it feels standalone. I'll spoil the news. It isn't standalone. There will be a sequel to this, and I'm saying sequel, not issue 2, because it's very much they feel. Like
it does feel like a film, and it ends like a film as well.
In that kind of Back to the Future style, like, oh, we're going on to the next one, and it does up the ante on what the next thing is going to be. And you're just like, I can't wait to see that done in this world.
Like if you did it with the Penguin, you did a corrupt mayor and did this, took us on this fascinating journey.
Yeah.
With
So
the birthday boy. We never talked about what the birthday boy is. Birthday boy is a terrifying paedophile, effectively.
Yes.
Some poor kid who had some horrible past. Something bad happened on his birthday. Became a child abusing Hulk.
Yeah.
A very big burly guy dresses like a little kid with a sack on his head. Which is just that image. It looked like he must have been a classic villain. Something out of the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, but it just feels like it's inspired by like 80s horror films or something like that. It is terrifying.
Keeps these kidnapped girls in sort of replica little girls' bedrooms.
Yeah,
terrifying and big, massive, great big knife.
And like I said, it doesn't feel like a comic book. It feels like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Rather than a comic book. And
it felt like a straight adaptation of a comic book character with the sack on its head.
Yeah.
And it's I say it because it was so inhuman.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a big scary bloke.
I mean, we mentioned all those cool bits, but there are many cool things to talk about. But even without those cool things, I just think it is just like it's an adaptation of a classic character, and it's just a well-rounded story that with just absolutely fantastic pace. It is first and foremost, without all the cool Batman stuff and changes, it is a very well-told story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if this was a cop, on the case, or just a run-of-the-mill vigilante story, still be fantastic.
Yeah.
Batman makes everything better, so this is the best version of this story that you could tell.
Is there any way more that we can just make people buy this book? Like, it is absolutely fantastic.
I think we're probably going to throw up an Amazon link with
probably,
with the podcast because
just
buy
like
this book.
This is homework for you peeps. Like, please read this book.
Also, it doesn't look out of place on any bookshelf. It's got this brilliant cover. It's got this like textured bit that I always think is supposed to be like a cape.
Yeah, hardback, and the image on the front is young Bruce Wayne in the rain next to his parents' grave. I assume that's where it's supposed to be, with Alfred with the umbrella underneath it.
With a shotgun.
Yeah, I believe that image has been liberally stolen for some of the shots for Gotham as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, this looks like it could be something out of Gotham. Buy this book.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why to buy this book as well. I just wanted to. I don't know if Dan's aware of this, so I thought I'd break it to him. Next year we get Batman Volume 2. And I know I've been telling you that since this book came out.
But we met.
Yes, but I've seen this cover. I've seen the cover now. It looks fucking badass. The book's coming out.
Oh, so it's got a cover. That makes it official.
We get Supes Volume 3 as well. Superman Earth 1 we get coming
1
out.
and 2 came, we got pretty quick.
Yeah, 1 and 2 came out before Batman Earth 1. So there are some Superman ones as well. If you like the Batman Earth 1, I suggest go and dip into the Superman ones. Yeah, so we'll get Volume 3 as well, which the story's going some places. It's going into some Krypton places, which I'm really happy with. As we discussed before, we're getting Wonder Woman Volume 1, which is...
We talked before, that is a hard story
to
get right. Which is why we both think, I think we're on the same page, that's why we haven't had a film yet.
Yeah, and I also feel that it's Morrison who's writing this one, so it's going to be interesting to say the least, probably detailed, maybe not be able to follow, which is weird for an Earth 1, because these Earth 1s are very back to basics.
He might be on a bit of a leash, you know.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But I honestly do think before penning any script for a Wonder Woman film, I think
they should wait for this book to come out.
And see where this book's going. Because I've heard an interview with Morrison, and he's talking about fucking with the mythology, because it's a little bit stupid. So that he's going to do a slightly different, like, rather than a woman being made out of, a baby being made out of sand that becomes Wonder Woman, they're going to do something slightly different with that.
Yeah, something less weird.
Okay, so I think that's the book club moment.
Yeah, we've started to drift into news as well, with your announcing to
the so I think it's a nice little
let's
segue.
Move into news.
Have you got any news at all?
All I have is trivia.
Okay.
I did have a little bit of a scour for news, but I think, other than just announcing release dates for stuff, which is not news, have you heard, and I deliberately didn't talk to you about this because I wanted to get your take on it, the current internet rumour about Stan Lee's cameos?
No. Now, I take it you're talking about the cameos in
the Marvel movies.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It is now rumoured.
Yeah.
That they are all the same character.
Okay.
Okay. I'll develop.
Yes.
That character.
Yeah.
Is allegedly the Watcher.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Watcher, for those of you who don't know, is a giant baby-faced creature who I believe has Asgardian origins, who presides over major events in the universe. Now, this sounds to me like someone's stupid idea that may get picked up. Like, this may have started out, like, there's no way in my mind,
this was
when they put him in Ed Norton's Hulk, that they thought,
can we just clarify about this? Because this is the interesting thing about Stan Lee is friends with everyone, so Stan Lee becomes cameos in not just the Marvel studio movies, he's also in the X-Men movies, he's also in the Spider-Man movies. I take it that version of him isn't...
what I've seen is connecting the Marvel studios.
Okay. Now, no, I think this is
must be bullshit. But I've seen it from enough sources.
The reason I think is like just things that are just so perfect about those cameos. Like, he is playing Hugh Hefner, I think, in Iron Man 2. Like, I understand he's confused by the Hef thing, so maybe not, but I always loved that as a nice little cameo.
He may not know he's the Watcher.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it from a kind of... so, I mean, the Watcher in the comics is always, as far as I'm aware, always the giant baby-faced monster.
Yeah.
And maybe in this it's some kind of quantum leaping...
Q from Star Trek.
Q, yeah. Showing up, and like, you know, it's always been major events in history because it's always been the stuff that happens in a Marvel movie. If it's not true, I actually think it's a good idea and would love to see, because, I mean, how old is Stan Lee?
This was my problem with it. Is Stan Lee is rather old now.
So we need to bring it to a head.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Guardians sequel has got to now cross over with the Avengers stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's going to be the densest Marvel content, right?
Yeah.
And so it'll have to be some big Thanos is trying to destroy the universe type thing, the kind of stuff that the Watcher actually shows up for.
Okay.
So maybe, and this is all based on a stupid internet rumour I saw, I would love to see Stan Lee turn out to be the full-on Watcher and like actually have lines and a scene in a Marvel film, you know?
My problem about him being a character like that is, have you seen Mallrats? The guy can't really act.
Alright, he morphs, you know? Just have that character and just all of them go, hey, I recognise you from blah, you know? And that kind of deals with the issue of, okay, the guy who looks like Hugh Hefner was on Nova with the Guardians, you know?
My forecast for where Marvel is going, I'm quite happy with, and it certainly isn't that. So I'm quite happy to say that I'm not a fan of that idea, and I'm also quite happy to say that will never come to pass.
Well, we're recording this motherfucker.
Okay, yeah, so I'll be eating my words in like...
I will happily shove these words down your throat if Stan Lee stands up to Thanos in Guardians.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Any other news? I don't know if we ever touched on it last week, but there was a Supergirl TV show that they're trying to get made.
I hear it's been picked up.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I do. Do we know anything regarding... I believe it's not going to be linked with our Arrows and our Flash. I believe it's going to be a standalone universe.
Again, pretty much what you... I can't remember whether we discussed it last week or whether that was before we recorded. But the only thing I know about it, other than that it's now been picked up, is what I've discussed with you. And that's what you were just saying.
I believe the CW...
Standalone.
Yeah, the CW didn't want it. So
from what I hear, no Superman jumping off, which is a concern. But then...
This is my problem.
Okay,
like,
so
how much of these characters are tied in with Superman? So, what can Supergirl use is my problem.
Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, so if you want to do Supergirl is Superman's cousin from Krypton, and that is the thing that makes a Supergirl. The fact that there was a Superman, and now she has come forward with her powers at the age.
Are we allowed to reference Superman like in the papers or something like that?
The issue is if you go the other way, and if she's just you tell the Kryptonian story.
Yeah.
But it's Supergirl rather than Superman, is that you're telling the Superman story, you've just swapped the gender.
Yeah.
It's not her story anymore, you're telling the wrong story.
Yeah, no, her story needs Superman to introduce her. I mean, we've seen how bad it goes when we have a Catwoman film about Batman.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure. However, as of late, it's been established by the networks that if you're going to make a show like this, it needs to be character heavy. So for a show to be picked up like this and us be like, oh yeah, she'll be fighting nobodies.
I mean, I don't even know if there's a script yet.
No, I think
so. At the moment, we're dealing largely in rumours, as we will continue to do. Never take our news as gospel. But yeah, so from what I hear, no Superman. But so hopefully someone will talk him out of it.
Did you hear the other show that's been picked up as well? Or sorry, not being picked up, but being floated around. A Teen Titans TV show. Now it's
Are they going to wait for the Teen Titans Earth 1 to come out?
I suggest that they should, because then, like I said, if you can do an Origins without the greater parts of the DCU, then all for it. It's going to be called Titans, so they don't have to deal with the teens.
Yeah, no angst.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to have the problems of them. I really love her. But
oh god, got to beat this villain, but I need to be back for prom.
Exactly, we don't have to deal with any of that. It means that we can get ourselves an older Nightwing and things like that. So, rather than it being a Robin. So yeah, no, that's another one that's been picked up. As we discussed last week, I know that you came to the conclusion that it's not such a thing as too much, is what you were saying when it comes to all this. It's just when I hear ideas like this, I'm like, is that true?
You're reaching now, you're taking it,
yeah.
But then we thought that when they were going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, so. I was like, you really, are we going there? And then it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so I should take everything on its merit.
Yeah. Only other piece of news I have isn't something we're going to be able to say a great deal about, I just did want to mention it. Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mentioned this to you briefly beforehand, but I'll just recap. Effectively, Jack Kirby, artist, alongside Stan Lee in many cases, define the look of a lot of characters that we know and love. Fantastic Four,
The Hulk.
I believe, characters like that, and there's been an ongoing battle since I think the 70s, legal battle for his estate. He died in I think in the early 90s. For his family to get a piece of that action, as it were. That shield,
Disney,
that shield he drew is making huge money in. Actually, I don't know whether he did Captain America. That might be wrong. No. But some of the characters he designed are now making huge money for Disney. And as I say, this is a legal case that has been going on since before that was the case. Marvel settled with Jack Kirby's family, I think outside of court recently. He's now his estate is now going to benefit from the work he did. Without going into too much of the history, the reason that wasn't happening before is because comics were always done in the early days on a work for hire basis. I think that was the term used. You hire someone to work for your company. Anything they design, do, draw, say belongs to that company, and he gets paid whatever his weekly salary was at the time, and then that's the end of it. That is, contractually legal, but unquestionably unfair, in my opinion. Really nice, and that sets a massive precedent. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more creators.
I mean, we've seen Bill Finger now is getting the nod for
he's getting credit now
for Batman, isn't it? That's happening now. So
I mean, without Bill Finger, Batman, as designed originally by Bob Kane, is wearing a red leotard with a pair of panto bat wings strapped to his back, no cape. So thank God for Bill Finger. And it's great that we're starting to see creators getting credit and nods. And if you pick up an Aquaman book now, you'll see Aquaman created by Paul Norris, which is not something you would have seen a few years ago.
They were just DC characters. I wonder why Kane got his name on Batman so quickly though.
Kane kind of became famous for it. It's the thing, Stan Lee got his name on everything, and he's no more involved than a lot. It's just he got a name out there for himself, and once you can sell based on his name,
that's what we're going to be sticking on there. Okay, cool. The only other bit of news as well that I'm saying it like it's a bit of a throwaway, but I think we could really go into this is the like I said, everything that we say is confirmed by Warner Brothers. No one's putting a name on it, so it's just rumours that go out there that are churn so much that they get mistaken as fact. But there will be a Suicide Squad movie. That is one of the films that is on the DC slate,
which is bizarre.
Yeah, you're not happy with that?
Suicide Squad kind of collects some random characters, which is why it works. I think as a comic is that you're taking, I think Harley Quinn at the moment is kind of heading up.
Well, the Suicide Squad that the three that you kind of need, you can fuck around with it. It's about 6 of them, but the ones that I'm like, if you're doing a Suicide Squad story, you need to have Captain Boomerang, you need to have Harley Quinn, and you also need to have Deadshot. They are the 3 that you need. The others, I don't know, Killer Frost or something like that. I don't mind. I'm not sacred on the other.
But these are not a uniform team.
Although I say that, they have done a Suicide Squad in Arrow Season 2, and that is Deadshot, Shrapnel, and Bronze Tiger. So you can do what you want with it. Essentially, it's Sarah Waller going, I'm going to take a bunch of criminals, and they're going to fucking do what I say. That's essentially the concept of...
you know what? If Guardians can work...
Yeah, you happy with that?
I can't argue with random team-ups.
I just think,
I tend to think of my team-ups as, Fantastic Four and the X-Men. As long as I'm wearing a uniform, I can cope.
Yeah.
But whereas anything where they've got, rich developed stories and then they get thrown together, that always seems like a strange place to start. When they talked a few years ago about starting with a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
that.
And we've talked about it. There are ways around it, and there's good ways of doing it. The Watchmen works fine as a couple of hour movie.
It's because it's got an hour of opening credits telling the whole story.
That's true. Yeah, but it's just a good way of doing it. I'm not saying it's impossible to do those things. The one thing that I always find weird when I hear these things from DC though is or Warner Brothers is. You're not in the same situation that Marvel is, where they have to scrape the barrel because they've sold off all their characters. All the A-listers, and they are A-class listers when it comes to the DC comics, are there. So why you're going, we'll do a Suicide Squad movie, it's really beyond me.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we know what they're doing with their A-listers.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I suppose what we can keep an eye on is anyone that they're throwing out a movie for, we can just check them off. Anyone who doesn't show up who's A-list, we know there's a chance they're going to show up in this main continuity.
Yeah.
talked a bit before. Is Shazam showing up in the main continuity, or is he getting his own?
No, we talked about this last episode. No, the problem is that's being made by New Line. So although DC are having it made and Warner Brothers are the powerhouse and the distributor, that is going to be a New Line film, which will not be part of the continuity.
Fair enough.
Which is fine, because like we said about Captain Marvel, it's like, can we have a Captain Marvel where we have a Superman as well? Like, is that cool? Like, you know what I mean? Did they not try?
Yeah, there are odds. Although what's brilliant is that, you know, Superman's got a weakness to magic.
Yeah.
And Captain Marvel has an affinity.
No, what I meant is they're much of the same character.
In terms of, yeah, I would argue against that in that, in one form or another, all superheroes are about someone who's really strong and can fly, usually.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, that, yes, is a unifying factor between them, but he's got the, you know, Captain... He's got the Banana Man thing of having an inner child. He's got totally different attitudes.
I think that is awesome as well. Is like, that would be really good in the Justice League movie, because the idea is to have relatable characters, and if you're a kid watching the Justice League movie, and there you are with the Justice League, you can be like, I could be, you know, Billy Batson. That's so relatable.
It could take me a long... Yeah, it's like, the thing about Batman is like, you know, I could be Batman, but that looks like it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
I could be Shazam, I just need to meet a wizard.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, so, to round up Suicide Squad, you can take or leave.
I could take it or leave it. I expressed initial doubt, but then I thought, Guardians.
Yeah, that's always going to be your that's going to be your answer to everything. Like, every time someone's like, "Fuck that," you be like, "Remember Guardians?" That's going to be your phrase.
So, Ryan Reynolds is in another movie of anything.
Yeah, Guardians.
Guardians work.
Yeah, Guardians work. So
Speaking of Ryan Reynolds,
good segue.
Excellent. Yeah, it's like a flat bit.
Yeah.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
We saw some test footage recently.
Yes.
And I loved it.
Yes, so did I. It was all
despite
CG.
the Ryan Reynolds voiceover.
I loved the Ryan Reynolds voiceover. I think like it was so okay. I understand this whole like you know, taintedness of Ryan Reynolds. Like
he's I admit through no fault of his own been in 2 of the worst superhero movies. 3 of the worst superhero movies of all time.
3 wasn't it? I mean, it was
Blade Trinity.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I know, yeah.
X-Men Origin, the Wolverine, and of course,
Green Lantern. Yeah, I forgot about Blade Trinity. I mean, the thing about the because we'll go, obviously the Wolverine one is the one we're talking about, because that is Deadpool and that's where that idea came from. Is I just found it like Deadpool is this character who's extremely witty and talks too much. And I love the idea. It's like, we'll cast Ryan Reynolds because he is that guy.
And then witty, talks too much,
and then stitches his mouth up. Like, it's like, do you understand who this character is? It's just like, why employ Ryan Reynolds and not have him?
It's like someone looked at the mask and went, I don't really want to put a mask on him because you know, we paid a lot for Ryan Reynolds. So let's just stitch his mouth shut.
I think it's
no one was brave enough in the room to go, we also paid for his voice.
Yeah, we also cast him for a reason. I think it's like the tone of the film as well. It's just like, we can't have him like fucking cracking wise at the, you know, in the final battle.
So he got to be Deadpool before they made him Deadpool.
Yeah.
The character he played in that film was, you know, a wise ass, you know, with you know, a bit of a hero complex.
And was very adequate at killing people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this test footage we saw, it looked all CG. I was happy.
Yeah.
I was really happy with what that film was. What that test footage was. It was absolutely ridiculous. My only kind of is, can we watch that for 90 minutes? Is it not the same with being like...
I tend to be exhausted by the character of Deadpool by the end of reading a cover featuring Deadpool. He's he's tiresome.
Yeah, no, I agree. I almost like a little bit like, oh yeah, Keith Lemon's funny. Let's do a 90-minute movie about him. Oh, that didn't work. That's what this feels like. This is going to be like. So I am, and the other thing I heard as well is obviously to get bums on seats, they're going to make it a 12A or a PG-13 as they call it in America. Which
Deadpool, a character, one of his little party pieces is just surviving decapitation. Does it quite a lot. Not in a 12A.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I just don't know what this film's going to be, in the same way that I didn't know what that character was going to be in Wolverine.
I do like that he's got his own film rather than being in a team up, actually, because one of the things I like about Deadpool, not as many, not a huge fan, is so self-aware.
I mean, this is the thing, like, within the comics, he's aware that he is a comic book character and
Yeah.
can break through the frames and talk to the audience. Do we want him to know that?
I want him to know he's in a movie.
Yeah,
I want him to know that he's Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
I want to say, hey, it's better than Green Lantern.
Okay, so you do what you. That's the film you want. You
Yeah.
don't. Okay.
Like I said, I can't imagine it for 9
To
minutes.
be honest, I just want a badass assassin movie. I want it to strip it down to that rather than
Cool.
that's the movie I would like.
But you got to be. Tone is always going to be difficult. With
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
because he's got to be witty, and if you try and take that away, you end up with what we had last time we played Deadpool.
Okay, and I'm inquiring, not accusing. Can you have what we had in that opening scene with Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, where you can talk? Would that make a film? That character.
The film that makes is Blade Trinity.
Yeah, which the answer is no. Yeah, we don't want to watch that either. Okay, that's absolutely fine. I think that's everything we got for today then.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Okay, what we'll do is the read list for next week.
Yeah.
Next month, shall I say?
Next month, I know
it's
he's going to include. I'll do mine just because I'm staring at some of my comics on the floor. I will have Aquaman and the Others, Future's End.
Yeah.
The one shot, which is in fact the second part of the one I discussed today. So get some closure on that. I'll have another Punisher. Hopefully that will have moved into what I think is going to be the next branch of the story.
Yeah.
I will talk about Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet. I will have a couple of those actually. Probably just going to talk about them generally.
Yeah, rather
the
than
actual stories. It won't need to talk about Eternal. I think we've covered that, and we'll just be repeating.
Unless something real badass happens.
If something really badass happens, I'll talk about Eternal. Other than that, I think we'll be on the same page as
okay, so that
Batman
means that will
and
cover
Guardians.
me to do Batman 35, which I believe will keep us in the future, the 5 years in the future from the run. I will then do Guardians of the Galaxy, and as I said, we're going to tick in some seminal books to celebrate the anniversary of Batman. I will do Hush next month. I think that'll be a good
Hush.
one. Don't worry, people, I will get to the Dark Knight Returns. I know that's the one that you want me to do, and I will get there. But I'm going to do Hush. I think I might do it, like I said, I think I'll do it up to the end of the year. So I think what I'll do is probably Hush next time, then I'll do the Long Halloween, and then I'll finish off with...
Long Halloween in October, presumably.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we've got October next.
It'll be November, but it'll be around. But
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It'll be, yeah.
Hey, depends when we actually release this.
Yeah.
So.
It'll be around then, and then I'll finish on with a strong. I'll finish off strong. I'll finish.
Yeah,
with the
I'll try and
Dark
come
Knight
in with a better knowledge of what's actually happening in Original Sin.
Okay.
See if we can't get to the bottom of some of the questions we raised today.
Okay, no, that's absolutely fine. Okay, until then, I've been Doug Hawkins.
Dan Simpson.
Read more comics.